Good morning, McGraw. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Hi, David.
I'm okay.
All right, good. You're talking about a movie that has my new favorite actor in it.
A movie that has your new favorite actor in it. Which one?
It's the Miles Teller.
Yeah, Miles Teller is a terrific actor. Miles Teller is a future Oscar winner, in my estimation.
I think he's great. I loved him in all sorts of things.
Yeah, I've interviewed him several times. I've had him in studio. I've spoken to him on red carpets. I interviewed him, I think, before really most people knew who he was, but it was apparent. I think the first time I saw him was in the remake of Footloose, and he stood out. Like he had a small part in that movie, but he definitely stood out, and it was apparent that he had what it takes. But I think a lot of people in Hollywood recognize that. The thing about Miles Teller is that he hasn't. He had a lead role in Whiplash, but he was overshadowed by his Oscar-winning co-star.
Right.
So he hasn't really had a movie yet where he's been the guy where he's had to carry it until this movie. He's always had somebody stealing the spotlight from him, and when he wasn't in a movie like that, he's always like the sidekick, or
right.
He's a terrible person. So he's either playing a terrible person or he's like the lovable best friend. And for this movie, he is the lead. He plays Vinny Pazienza in Bleed for this, and Vinny Pazienza is a terrific story. Wasn't one of the greatest boxers of all time. Was a very good boxer. Won several championships in different classes. But his story is great because of his comeback. One of the great comeback stories of all time. And not because he was down on his luck, and not because he didn't feel like boxing. It's actually the opposite. Now, he was a little unlucky, just a little, because he was in this awful car accident where he broke his neck. Right after winning, not long after winning, I think, a middleweight championship, after he discovered that he was a better boxer in his natural weight, because what he used to do is he used to starve himself and become dehydrated before boxing matches so he could be a lightweight, and that wasn't the healthiest thing for him. And so his career's going really well, and then he's in this terrible car accident, and he breaks his neck, and he's almost immediately told that he may never walk again. He's certainly never going to box again, but when they discovered he could walk, well, he's certainly not going to box again. And he went through incredible pain and through just sheer determination and in an indomitable spirit, he started boxing again. But you watch how this plays out, and you watch how Miles Teller renders and inhabits the role of Vinny Pazienza, and it's pretty amazing. And you got to give Miles Teller credit because, if you know anything about boxing, a lightweight boxer isn't really going to be any taller than 5'6" or 5'7" at best. Miles Teller's a pretty tall guy in real life. Like, he's at least 6 feet tall, and Vinny Pazienza could not be taller than 5'6" or 5'7". And I remember when I first heard Miles Teller was playing him, and I thought to myself, that's pretty weird because they actually look nothing alike, and they still, when you see the movie, look nothing alike. But he becomes this character, Vinny Pazienza, and he does a beautiful job. Now, I wish the movie was as good as his performance, but he really outperforms the movie. Not to say it's a bad movie; it's not. It's a solid boxing movie, but it's not great. It's worth your money, though. 3.5 out of 5 stars.
All right, that's good. While we still have you, David Blousing, what's this Fantastic Beasts? Or we're short on time, so make it quick.
I'll do this quickly. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's an extension of the Harry Potter universe. It's a prequel, if you will. No Harry Potter in here, but some of the characters that they name check and some of the terminology is certainly familiar. Harry Potter fans are going to be thrilled. It's Eddie Redmayne as the main character, a guy named Newt Scamander, who's sort of an obscure character in the Harry Potter universe who never shows up. He's just mentioned because he wrote a textbook called Fantastic Beasts, Where to Find Them. He's a magi-zoologist who specializes in magical creatures. And this takes place in 1920s New York, and it's a terrific extension of that Harry Potter universe. There are a few actors who I think are going to become household names, like super endearing characters in this movie, and there are going to be 4 more of them after this. And it's just going to thrill Harry Potter fans. And this movie is 4 out of 5 stars.
All right, good. While we have you, real quickly, David Blousing, in the past you have admitted that you are a flaming homosexual.
Yes, I am. I still am.
What are your thoughts about this latest controversy where he's stepping down as starting quarterback?
Well, he's still the man, and I thought that was an incredible speech. It was unprecedented. I think that had he taken questions, I think he thought carefully about that. I think if he took questions, I think he probably would have cried. I think he almost cried during that speech. Tony Romo has a flair for the dramatic and almost the cinematic. There was something very cinematic about that speech, something very dramatic, and he's a great communicator, and it was a terrific thing for him to do. And there are so many different caveats to this story, because you could talk about how maybe that takes attention away from the Cowboys and away from the job that Dak is doing, and now people are speculating about Tony Romo's future. But it probably would have been worse if he never said anything at all. I think Tony Romo is a competitor. In his heart, he's a competitor. It's come out that he asked the team. He told them he wanted to compete with Dak, and they said no. And he said fine. And, he's recognizing, he wants the world to know that he's going to be a team player. He's still a competitor, and he wants everybody to know he still wants to play. Jerry Jones is saying we may keep him, and they could, quite frankly, afford to keep him, but Jerry Jones is probably saying that to drive up the asking price, to say to the league, I'm not going to cut him, so if you want him, you're going to have to pry him away from us with a first or second round draft pick. Look, if somebody was stupid enough to give the Eagles a first round draft pick for Sam Bradford, I think somebody certainly will be stupid enough to give the Cowboys a first-round draft pick for an old quarterback who may disintegrate the next time he gets hit.
David Blaustein, have a good weekend. Thanks for checking in.
You can't get that kind of analysis anywhere else.
Nowhere else except here with David Blaustein. All right, 8